Jake Morrison sat perfectly still in the corner of the massive council chamber. His blue-scaled hands rested calmly on the datapad in front of him. To anyone looking, he appeared to be just another Catalian diplomat taking notes during the meeting. The biosynthetic skin felt strange against his real flesh underneath, but he had grown used to it over the past 3 months. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate 12 different alien species. Crystal formations jutted from the walls where the Zephyrians preferred to rest. Pools of thick liquid provided comfort for the aquatic dwellers. Environmental suits hummed quietly as they maintained perfect conditions for each species present. Admiral Crix of the Zephyrian fleet stood at the center podium. His crystalline body caught the light as he spoke, sending rainbow patterns across the walls. His voice carried clearly through the translation devices each delegate wore. "The human problem has reached critical levels," Crix announced. "In just 50 years, they have spread to over 200 worlds. They adapt to environments that should kill them. They breed faster than any civilized species should. They consume resources without regard for other life forms." Jake kept his expression neutral. Inside, his heart pounded with rage. He had seen the human colonies Crix referred to, peaceful farming communities, research stations studying alien plant life to help both species, trading posts where humans worked alongside dozens of alien races. The insectoid Vex Queen clicked her mandibles in agreement. "My scouts report human settlements in 17 systems we had marked for expansion. They arrive like a plague and refuse to leave when asked politely." Politely, Jake thought bitterly. He remembered the Vex polite request to evacuate the mining colony on Kepler 7. It had come in the form of armed warships and a 12-hour ultimatum. Dr. Zentar, a serpentine Nagai scientist, slithered forward to the speaking platform. "I have completed my analysis of human biology. They are remarkably adaptable, yes, but this adaptability makes them dangerous to galactic stability. They change too quickly. They learn too fast. They refuse to accept their place in the natural order." Jake made careful notes, his enhanced memory recording every word. The translation implant in his brain worked perfectly, giving him access to conversations in a dozen alien languages. What he was hearing went far beyond simple territorial disputes. "The Terrans believe they can colonize any world they choose," continued Dr. Zentar. "They show no respect for established territorial boundaries. Worse, they influence other species to adopt their reckless expansion policies. The Altarian colonies now demand the same freedoms humans enjoy." The gaseous Nathari representative shimmered with colors that Jake's implant translated as agreement. "Our economists predict that human trade practices will destabilize 17 galactic markets within the next decade. They sell goods at prices that undercut established rates. They form partnerships with species outside traditional trade agreements." Jake bit back a smile. Human merchants were indeed disrupting alien markets, but only because they offered better products at fair prices. The established rates the Nathari mentioned were artificially inflated through monopolies that had existed for centuries. General Thark, the Zephyrian security chief, activated a holographic display showing human space. Red dots marked human colonies, trade routes, and military installations. "Observe the pattern of human expansion. They do not follow predictable colonization models. Instead of claiming the richest worlds first, they settle planets others consider worthless and make them productive." The hologram zoomed in on a barren world called Haven. Jake knew it well. Human terraforming engineers had turned the dead rock into a garden world in just 20 years. Now it supported 500,000 human colonists and provided food exports to 6 alien species. This unpredictability makes them impossible to contain through normal diplomatic channels, General Thark continued. "Traditional pressure tactics fail because humans adapt their strategies faster than we can implement countermeasures." Ambassador Velthos, the Catalian representative Jake was impersonating, was supposed to speak next. Jake rose smoothly from his chair and approached the podium. The real Velthos had been assassinated 3 months ago, though the other species believed he had simply become more militant in his views. "My fellow delegates," Jake began in perfect Catalian vocal patterns. "The human expansion represents an existential threat to our established galactic order. However, we must consider the consequences of direct military action. Several delegates leaned forward with interest. Jake had built a reputation as a thoughtful strategist over the past months. Humans have proven remarkably resourceful when faced with extinction-level threats. The Corvan Empire learned this lesson when they attempted to genocide the human colony on Proxima Station. Within 6 months, human fleets had destroyed 3 Corvan worlds and forced a complete surrender. The Corvan delegate shifted uncomfortably. That particular military disaster was not something his species liked to remember. Jake continued his carefully prepared speech. I propose that we consider more subtle approaches: economic pressure, diplomatic isolation, support for human political factions that favor limited expansion. Admiral Crix's crystalline features darkened. The time for subtle approaches has passed, Ambassador Velthos. Human expansion threatens the territorial claims of every species in this chamber. They must be stopped by whatever means necessary. Including extinction, added the Vex Queen. My hive ships are prepared to sterilize every human world simultaneously. No warnings, no negotiations. Complete eradication before they can mount organized resistance. Jake felt ice form in his veins. The casual way she discussed murdering billions of innocent people made his enhanced muscles tense with barely controlled fury. But he maintained his diplomatic facade. Such action would surely provoke retaliation from human allies, he observed. The Centaurian Federation has mutual defense treaties with Earth. The Tau Ceti Republic maintains extensive trade relationships with human colonies. Dr. Zentar hissed softly. Our intelligence indicates that human allies will abandon them when faced with overwhelming force. Most species value their own survival over abstract concepts of loyalty. Then it is decided, Admiral Crix announced. We move forward with the final solution. Each species will contribute ships and resources according to the quotas we have established. The simultaneous strike will commence in 60 standard days. Jake made detailed notes of force distributions and attack schedules. His quantum communicator would transmit this intelligence to Earth as soon as he could access a secure channel. But first he needed more information about the alien bioweapons and the specific timing of their assault. The meeting continued for another 3 hours. Jake listened to detailed discussions of orbital bombardment patterns, bioweapon deployment. Schedules and plans for dividing human territory after the extinction was complete. Every word was recorded in his enhanced memory for later transmission to Earth Defense Command. As the session finally ended, Jake gathered his notes and prepared to return to his quarters. None of the other delegates paid attention to the quiet Catalian diplomat. They had no idea that their most carefully guarded secrets were about to be delivered directly to their intended victims. Jake returned to his assigned quarters after the council session ended. The Catalian diplomatic suite was spacious but cold, designed for a species that preferred lower temperatures than humans. He activated the privacy shields and checked for surveillance devices using his hidden scanner. Clean. Moving to the secured communication alcove, Jake activated his quantum transmitter. The device was disguised as a standard Catalian meditation crystal. Captain Amy Rodriguez answered the encrypted channel within seconds. Report. Her voice came through clearly despite the distance of several star systems. Jake spoke quickly in coded phrases. The Harvest Festival is confirmed for 60 days. All 12 families will attend. The menu includes the special dishes we discussed. Amy understood immediately. 12 alien species would attack human colonies in 60 days with bioweapons and overwhelming force. Any details on the recipes? Amy asked. The Vex family is bringing insect protein. The Crystal family provides orbital seasoning. The Snake family has biological spices ready for testing. Jake's stomach turned as he remembered Dr. Zentar's presentation about human-specific bioweapons. Understood. Continue gathering information. Stay safe, Jake. The transmission ended. Jake sat back and tried to process what he had learned. The scope of the conspiracy was massive. Species that Earth considered neutral or even friendly were actively planning genocide. Over the next several days, Jake attended smaller committee meetings. The aliens discussed their plans with shocking casualness. During a weapons procurement meeting, he learned that the Altarian government was secretly funding research into human neural toxins while publicly maintaining trade agreements with Earth colonies at the Dweller. representative revealed that their species had been mapping human shipping routes for 2 years, providing targeting data for the planned attacks. Their peaceful merchant vessels were actually sophisticated spy ships, gathering intelligence on human defenses. Jake's most disturbing discovery came during a scientific conference led by Dr. Vextar, a brilliant Manthari researcher. She had been experimenting on captured humans for months, developing weapons specifically designed to exploit human biology. Observe the subject's response to Compound 7 Alpha, Dr. Vextar announced to the assembled scientists. On the laboratory screen, a human prisoner writhed in agony as the bioweapon attacked his nervous system. Neural pathway disruption occurs within 30 seconds. Complete system failure follows in approximately 4 minutes. Jake forced himself to watch without reacting. The test subject was a young man, probably in his 20s. He had been captured from a research station that the aliens claimed was abandoned. Jake recognized the uniform. This was Dr. Pete Collins from the Xenobiology lab on Darwin Station. The compound disperses effectively through standard atmospheric processors. Dr. Vexistar continued. A single canister can contaminate the air supply for an entire human settlement within hours. The other scientists took detailed notes. Jake carefully recorded every specification, every delivery method, every countermeasure the bioweapon was designed to overcome. After the presentation, Jake approached Dr. Vexitar during the informal discussion period. "Impressive research," he said in his carefully practiced Catalian accent. "Have you considered the possibility of human adaptation?" Dr. Vextar's compound eyes focused on him with interest. "Adaptation requires survival, Ambassador Velthos. This compound ensures that no human subjects survive long enough to develop resistance. But humans have shown remarkable adaptability in the past," Jake pressed. "Their medical technology advances quickly when faced with biological threats." "Their medical technology will be irrelevant," Dr. Vextar replied confidently. "We have analyzed their research capabilities extensively. Human scientists focus on broad-spectrum treatments that work across multiple conditions. Our weapons are specifically tailored to human biochemistry. They will not have time to develop specific countermeasures before the simultaneous deployment occurs." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "What about their military response capabilities?" "Admiral Crix's intelligence division has thoroughly analyzed human military doctrine," another scientist interjected. "They rely heavily on defensive positioning and gradual escalation. The simultaneous strike across all human territories will prevent coordinated resistance." That evening, Jake transmitted detailed specifications for the bioweapons to Earth. He included Dr. Vextar's research data, delivery methods, and the locations of production facilities. The information would allow human scientists to develop countermeasures and protective equipment. But Jake discovered something even more troubling during his continued investigation. The alien conspiracy reached far deeper into galactic politics than anyone had suspected. During a classified briefing, General Thark revealed that 3 species currently serving on the Galactic Council's peacekeeping forces were secretly part of the anti-human alliance. They would ensure that no intervention came from neutral species when the attacks began. The Rigelian peacekeeping fleet will be conducting routine exercises in the Outer Rim during the operation, General Thark explained. They will be unable to respond to distress calls from human colonies. The Tau Ceti Republic, which maintained extensive trade relationships with human settlements, had secretly agreed to provide logistical support in exchange for territorial concessions after humanity's extinction. Even more shocking was the revelation that the Centaurian Federation, Earth's closest alien ally, had been infiltrated at the highest levels. Several key military officers were actually deep-cover agents working for the conspiracy. Jake learned that the real Ambassador Velthos had discovered part of this network 3 months ago. His assassination had been carefully planned to look like natural causes. The aliens had then inserted a more radical replacement, never suspecting that Earth intelligence had also learned of Velthos's death. During a strategic planning session, Jake volunteered to help coordinate supply routes for the invasion forces. This gave him access to detailed logistical information, including supply depot locations, fleet positioning schedules, and communication protocols. The beauty of this operation, Admiral Crix explained during the briefing, is that humans expect attacks to come from their known enemies. They have prepared defenses against the Corvan Empire and the Hegemony war fleets. They will never suspect coordinated action from species they consider neutral or friendly. Jake carefully documented every detail while maintaining his role as an enthusiastic supporter of the plan. He suggested minor modifications that seemed helpful but would actually create vulnerabilities that human forces could exploit. Perhaps we should stagger the attacks by a few hours to account for different time zones, Jake suggested during one planning meeting. This would ensure optimal psychological impact. The other delegates agreed, not realizing that the staggered timing would give human defense forces precious hours to coordinate their response once the attacks began. As the days passed, Jake gathered increasingly detailed intelligence about the conspiracy. The aliens were confident in their plan, never suspecting that their most trusted advisor was systematically documenting their every move and transmitting the information directly to their intended victims. The countdown to humanity's planned extinction continued, but thanks to Jake's infiltration, Earth would not face the attack unprepared. Jake sat in the environmental control room watching the alien technicians work. The chamber's life support systems had failed during the morning session, forcing an emergency break in the council meetings. Toxic gases were building up, while the temperature regulation system cycled between freezing and scorching. The Zephyrian engineers worked frantically with their crystalline tools, but made no progress. Their methods followed strict protocols that had worked for centuries. Replace the damaged component with an identical backup. Run diagnostic checks. Restart the system following predetermined sequences. But the failure was more complex than their protocols could handle. The backup components were also damaged, and the diagnostic system showed conflicting error messages. The engineers stood around arguing about which protocol to follow next. Jake watched for several minutes before his human instincts took over. He approached the primary control panel and began working. Instead of following protocols, he cross-connected two systems that were never meant to work together. He bypassed the damaged diagnostic array entirely and used manual overrides to balance the atmospheric mixture. The environmental systems hummed back to life. Clean air began circulating while temperature controls stabilized at comfortable levels for all species present. The alien engineers stared at him in amazement. General Thark approached with suspicious interest. "That repair method is not in any technical manual," the security chief observed. "How did you know it would work?" Jake felt his heart racing but kept his voice calm. "Catalian engineering philosophy emphasizes creative problem-solving," he replied. "We believe that rigid protocols can limit effective solutions." Dr. Zentar slithered closer to examine the jury-rigged connections. "This configuration violates basic safety principles. The systems were never designed to interface directly. Yet it functions perfectly," Jake pointed out. "Sometimes unconventional approaches succeed where traditional methods fail." The aliens accepted his explanation, but Jake realized he had made a dangerous mistake. His instinctive human response to fix problems had nearly blown his cover. He needed to be more careful about suppressing his natural problem-solving instincts. Over the following days, Jake began to understand something crucial about the alien mindset. They thought in predictable patterns. Each species had developed rigid approaches to every situation, and they rarely deviated from established procedures. The Zephyrians always attacked in precise geometric formations. The Vex relied on overwhelming numerical superiority. The Manthari used complex scientific calculations to determine optimal strategies. None of them adapted their methods when circumstances changed. Jake realized that humanity's greatest advantage was not superior technology or military strength. Humans excelled at thinking outside established parameters, finding solutions where others saw only dead ends. During a tactical planning meeting, Jake began subtly testing this theory. Admiral Crix presented the invasion timeline with military precision. Each species would contribute specific ship types in predetermined quantities. Attack formations would follow classical strategic doctrine. The human defenses follow predictable patterns, Admiral Crix explained. They position heavy weapons platforms at system entry points. They maintain patrol schedules that create exploitable gaps. They respond to threats using conventional military escalation. Jake raised his hand politely. What if the humans deviate from conventional responses? Impossible, Admiral Crix replied confidently. Human military doctrine is well documented. They have followed the same basic strategies for decades. But humans have shown adaptability in other areas, Jake pressed. Perhaps we should consider unconventional human responses. General Thark activated a holographic display showing human military installations. Our intelligence analysis is thorough, Ambassador Velthos. Human forces are trained to respond according to established protocols. They cannot change their entire military doctrine in 60 days. Jake nodded as if convinced, but privately he smiled. The aliens had studied human military manuals and training procedures, but they had missed something fundamental about human nature. When humans faced extinction, they abandoned all protocols and fought with desperate creativity. Jake began volunteering for additional planning committees. He offered to coordinate supply lines for the invasion fleet, citing Catalian expertise in logistics management. The other delegates readily agreed, happy to delegate tedious organizational work. This gave Jake access to detailed supply schedules, transport routes, and communication protocols. He began making subtle modifications that seemed helpful but contained critical flaws. I suggest we establish redundant supply depots, Jake proposed during a logistics meeting. This will ensure continuous resource flow even if some facilities are compromised. The aliens approved his suggestion. They did not realize that Jake's depot locations were positioned perfectly for human strike teams to cripple the entire supply network with coordinated attacks. Jake also volunteered to help establish communication protocols between the various species fleets. He suggested frequency assignments and encryption keys that would allow human intelligence to monitor all invasion communications. Standardized communications will improve coordination, Jake explained. I recommend we use these specific channels for optimal clarity. Dr. Vextar praised his thoroughness. Your attention to detail will ensure our success. Ambassador Velthos. During weapons testing demonstrations, Jake asked innocent questions that revealed critical information about alien military capabilities. He learned about shield frequencies, weapon ranges, and defensive weaknesses for each species' ships. The human vessels use primarily kinetic weapons, explained Commander Srix of the Dweller Fleet. Our energy shields are optimized to deflect their projectile attacks. Jake made careful notes. Human engineers would find that information very useful when designing new weapon systems, specifically to counter alien defenses. The aliens grew increasingly confident as their preparations advanced. They saw Jake's enthusiastic participation as proof that even moderate species recognized the necessity of eliminating humanity. Your support has been invaluable, Admiral Crix told Jake after a particularly productive planning session. The Catalian reputation for strategic thinking is well-deserved. Jake accepted the praise gracefully while internally documenting every detail of the alien battle plans. Each piece of information was transmitted to Earth during his nightly communications with Captain Rodriguez. But Jake's most important discovery came during a private conversation with General Thark. The security chief revealed that the aliens had been monitoring human communications for months, learning about Earth's defensive preparations. Human military leaders believe they face threats from known hostile species, General Thark explained. They have no idea that their closest allies are planning their destruction. This intelligence advantage ensures our complete victory. Jake realized that the aliens' confidence was both their greatest strength and their critical weakness. They had become so certain of victory that they were ignoring potential complications. They assumed humans would react predictably, because humans had always reacted predictably in the past. What they did not understand was that humans facing extinction would abandon every predictable response and fight with desperate innovation. Jake's job was to make sure Earth was ready when that moment came. The maintenance worker never saw the ceiling beam falling toward him. Jake reacted without thinking, diving forward with purely human reflexes. His enhanced muscles propelled him across the room faster than any Catalian could move. He caught the worker and rolled both of them clear just as the heavy metal beam crashed where the alien had been standing. The worker, a young Altarian named Kess, looked up at Jake with grateful eyes. Thank you, Ambassador Velthos. Your reflexes are incredible. Jake helped Kess to his feet, his mind racing. He had moved too fast, too decisively. Catalians were known for careful deliberation, not split-second heroic actions. Several other maintenance workers had witnessed his unusually quick response. Just fortunate timing, Jake said, brushing dust from his diplomatic robes. I noticed the structural stress indicators moments before the failure occurred. Most of the workers accepted his explanation, and returned to their duties. But Jake noticed one figure watching him with suspicious interest. General Thark stood in the doorway, his crystalline features reflecting the overhead lights as he studied Jake's movements. The security chief approached slowly. Remarkable reflexes for a diplomat, Ambassador Velthos. Most Catalians require several seconds to process emergency situations and formulate appropriate responses. Jake felt sweat forming beneath his biosynthetic skin. "Emergency training is mandatory for all diplomatic personnel," he replied calmly. "We must be prepared to protect ourselves and others during crisis situations." General Thark nodded thoughtfully, but did not seem entirely convinced. "Of course. Still, your movement patterns seemed unusually efficient, almost as if you had extensive combat training." "Catalian diplomatic protection services are quite thorough," Jake answered. "We learn to move quickly when lives are at stake." The conversation ended there, but Jake noticed increased security attention over the following days. Guards watched him more closely during council sessions. His quarters were searched twice while he attended meetings. His communication equipment was subjected to additional scanning procedures. Jake maintained his normal routine, while privately worrying that his cover was beginning to unravel. He continued attending planning sessions and transmitting intelligence to Earth. But he could feel General Thark's suspicion growing stronger. The breaking point came during the final War Council 3 weeks before the planned attack. Jake sat in his usual position as the alien leaders reviewed their completed preparations. Fleet movements were coordinated. Supply lines were established. Bioweapon production was finished. Admiral Crix activated the main tactical display. Our forces are in position throughout human space. The simultaneous strike will commence in exactly 21 days. Each target has been assigned multiple redundant attack vectors to ensure complete destruction. The holographic map showed human colonies surrounded by hidden alien fleets. Earth itself was targeted by no fewer than 6 different species, each approaching from carefully planned vectors that would overwhelm any defensive response. The bioweapon deployment will begin simultaneously across all inhabited human worlds, Dr. Vextar announced. Complete atmospheric contamination will occur within 4 hours of initial release. No human populations will survive long enough to mount organized resistance. Jake forced himself to remain expressionless as he listened to the detailed genocide plans. Billions of innocent people would die unless Earth Defense Command could organize effective countermeasures based on his intelligence reports. As the meeting progressed, Jake noticed General Thark watching him intently. The security chief seemed to be studying every facial expression, every small movement. Jake kept his reactions perfectly neutral, but he could sense that something was wrong. The session ended with final confirmations from each species representative. Jake gathered his notes and prepared to leave, but General Thark blocked his path. "Ambassador Velthos, I require your presence for additional security briefings," the security chief announced. "There are certain classified matters that require your immediate attention." Jake had no choice but to follow. General Thark led him to a secure conference room deep within the station's military section. 2 armed guards flanked the doorway. Advanced scanning equipment lined the walls. "Please be seated," General Thark said politely, but his tone carried an unmistakable threat. Jake sat in the indicated chair, his mind calculating escape routes and defensive options. His enhanced human physiology could overpower the guards, but that would certainly blow his cover and compromise the entire mission. General Thark activated the room's security systems. "I have been conducting routine background verification on all council delegates," he began. "Most files contain predictable information about education, career progression, and political affiliations." Jake waited silently, knowing that any response might reveal dangerous information. "However," General Thark continued, "your file contains several interesting anomalies. Your diplomatic posting to this council came very suddenly after Ambassador Velthos developed an unusual illness. Your policy positions shifted dramatically from his previous moderate stance. Most intriguingly, your physical capabilities seem far beyond normal Catalian parameters." The security chief activated a holographic display, showing Jake's rescue of the maintenance worker from multiple camera angles. The footage clearly demonstrated reflexes and strength that no Catalian possessed. "These movement patterns are inconsistent with your claimed species," General Thark observed. "I have consulted with experts in Catalian physiology. They confirm that such rapid response times are biologically impossible for your people. Jake maintained his diplomatic composure. Enhanced physical conditioning is part of my security training, he replied. Diplomatic personnel receive extensive augmentation to ensure our survival in hostile environments. General Thark's crystalline features darkened with suspicion. I have contacted the Catalian embassy to verify your credentials. They have no record of any Ambassador Velthos receiving physical augmentation training. Jake's heart rate spiked, but he forced his voice to remain steady. Perhaps there was a clerical error in their records. Diplomatic augmentation programs are highly classified. Indeed, General Thark agreed. So classified that I have decided to conduct additional verification procedures. The security chief produced a small vial containing blue liquid. This is standard Catalian dietary supplement, enriched with minerals essential for your species' metabolism. All diplomatic personnel are required to maintain proper nutrition during extended assignments. Jake recognized the liquid immediately from his intelligence briefings. The supplement contained compounds that were mildly toxic to most other species but essential for Catalian biochemistry. Consuming it would prove his claimed identity, but it would also probably kill him unless his experimental biological modifications could handle the poison. Please consume the supplement, General Thark commanded. This is a routine health requirement for all Catalian personnel. Jake looked at the vial, knowing that his next decision would determine whether his mission succeeded or failed. If he refused, General Thark would know immediately that he was an imposter. If he drank the supplement and his modified biology could not handle it, he would die and his intelligence would never reach Earth. But if he drank it and survived, he might convince General Thark that he was genuinely Catalian, allowing him to complete his mission and save billions of human lives. Jake reached for the vial with steady hands, praying that Dr. Park's experimental biological modifications would keep him alive long enough to warn Earth about the coming genocide. Jake lifted the vial to his lips and drank the blue liquid in one smooth motion. The Catalian supplement burned his throat as it went down, and he felt his modified organs immediately begin processing the toxic compounds. Dr. Park's experimental biological enhancements kicked in, neutralizing the poison before it could reach his bloodstream. General Thark watched intently for signs of distress. Jake kept his expression calm while internally monitoring his body's response to the deadly supplement. His enhanced liver filtered the toxins efficiently, but he could feel the strain on his modified biological systems. Excellent, General Thark said after several tense minutes passed without incident. Your metabolism appears normal for a Catalian diplomat. Perhaps I was overly cautious in my suspicions. Jake nodded graciously. Security concerns are always appropriate, General. I appreciate your thoroughness in protecting this operation. But General Thark was not finished. He activated additional scanning equipment that Jake had not seen before. One final verification procedure, the security chief announced. This device will conduct a complete genetic analysis to confirm your species' identity. Jake's blood turned cold. No amount of biological modification could change his fundamental human DNA. The genetic scanner would reveal his true species within minutes, exposing him as a human infiltrator and dooming billions of people to extinction. The scanning beam activated, but before it could complete its analysis, Jake made a decision that surprised everyone in the room, including himself. Instead of trying to escape or fight his way out, he began talking. General Thark, Jake said calmly, before that scanner finishes its analysis, you should know that I have been recording every conversation, every plan, and every strategic detail discussed in these chambers for the past 3 months. General Thark's crystalline features darkened with confusion and growing alarm. What are you saying, Ambassador Velthos? I am saying that your genetic scanner is about to reveal that I am Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Corps, Jake replied. And I am also saying that your entire invasion plan has been compromised from the very beginning. The scanner beeped as it completed its analysis. The display clearly showed human genetic markers. General Thark stared at the readout in stunned disbelief while the 2 guards raised their weapons. Jake continued speaking as if armed aliens were not pointing deadly weapons at him. The fleet movements you planned so carefully have been monitored and countered. The bioweapons you developed have been analyzed and neutralized. The supply routes you established have been infiltrated and sabotaged. Impossible, General Thark snarled. You are one person. You cannot have compromised an operation involving 12 species and thousands of ships. Jake smiled for the first time in 3 months. You are absolutely correct, General. One person could not accomplish such a task. But one person can gather intelligence and transmit it to people who can accomplish such tasks. Through the reinforced windows of the security room, brilliant flashes of light began appearing in space around the station. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace, but they were not the alien vessels that were supposed to be conducting routine patrols. General Thark rushed to the viewport and stared in horror at the sight greeting his eyes. Human warships surrounded the diplomatic station. The Earth Defense Fleet had arrived in overwhelming numbers, led by the massive battleship EDS Defiance. Admiral Ben Carter sends his compliments, Jake announced cheerfully. He wanted to personally thank you for providing such detailed intelligence about alien fleet, positions and defensive capabilities. More flashes of light appeared throughout the star system as additional human task forces dropped out of hyperspace. Each group of ships moved with perfect coordination toward predetermined targets that Jake had identified during his 3 months of intelligence gathering. General Thark activated his communication equipment frantically, trying to contact the alien fleets that should have been protecting the system. Instead of military responses, he received panicked distress calls from scattered alien commanders reporting surprise attacks throughout the galaxy. This is impossible, General Thark repeated. Our fleets were positioned to intercept any human military response. Our intelligence indicated that Earth Defense Command was preparing for defensive operations only. Jake laughed genuinely for the first time since beginning his undercover mission. Your intelligence was absolutely correct, General. Earth was preparing for defensive operations, but you made one critical error in your analysis of human military capabilities. What error? General Thark demanded. You assumed that humans would react predictably to an existential threat, Jake explained. You studied our military manuals and training procedures, but you missed something fundamental about human nature. When humans face extinction, we do not follow manuals or procedures. We adapt, we improvise, and we fight with desperate creativity. The communication equipment continued broadcasting distress calls from alien commanders throughout known space. The Vex hive ships that were supposed to sterilize human colonies had been ambushed by cloaked human vessels using new weapon systems specifically designed to exploit insectoid ship vulnerabilities. The Zephyrian crystal fleets found their perfect geometric formations useless against human fighters that attacked from impossible angles using unconventional tactics. The Manthari science vessels discovered that their carefully calculated strategies meant nothing when facing human commanders who ignored mathematical probability and attacked where logic said they should not. But how did you coordinate such a massive military response? General Thark asked in defeated confusion. Our monitoring systems detected no unusual human fleet movements. Jake's smile widened. Because there were no unusual fleet movements to detect. Every ship you see was already in position weeks ago, disguised as merchant vessels, research ships, and diplomatic transports. While you were planning your surprise attack, we were surrounding every alien military installation in known space. Admiral Carter's voice came through the station's communication system. This is Admiral Ben Carter of the Earth Defense Fleet. All alien vessels will power down weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that attempts to flee or fight will be destroyed immediately. General Thark looked around the security room desperately, searching for options that no longer existed. His guards had lowered their weapons, recognizing that resistance was pointless. Jake stood up from his chair and removed the biosynthetic skin from his hands, revealing normal human flesh underneath. You wanted humans dead because you thought we were dangerous when we were scattered and unaware. Now we are united, and we know exactly who our enemies are. The alien invasion force that had been assembled to exterminate humanity was itself surrounded and helpless. Species that had planned genocide found themselves facing the superior strategy and overwhelming firepower of the people they had underestimated. Your choice what happens next, Jake concluded as human Marines began boarding the diplomatic station. But remember this moment the next time someone suggests that humans are too primitive to be a real threat. The galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or numbers, but their ability to be exactly where their enemies least expected them, doing exactly what conventional wisdom said was impossible.